I'm Brian Winnikins. We are at the National Association of Farm Broadcasting's Washington Watch Convention in Washington, D.C. I'd like to say thank you to our sponsors, including Wisconsin Farm Bureau Federation, also the Wisconsin Corn Growers Association, Wisconsin Pork Association, Dairyland Equipment Services, and BASF. I'm with Kent Backus with the National Cattlemen's Beef Association today. And Kent, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Let's talk a little bit about trade. For Wisconsin, it's a big deal. $88 billion industry. Mexico and Canada are our two biggest customers. Where are we at with NAFTA? What have you been hearing? Because there's a lot of concern in farm country.
And rightfully so. You know, there continue to be threats of withdrawing from NAFTA, but at the same time, you know, our negotiators are close to the finish. We're hearing that they're going to try to conclude those talks within the next 2 weeks. And a lot of that has to do with timing. In order for Congress to be able to take up a NAFTA revision this year, then we're going to have to see those negotiations conclude very soon. But you also have the upcoming presidential election in Mexico. You also have two provincial elections in Canada as well. So from a timing perspective, it's kind of now or never. We're either going to have to hit pause and wait for several months for the election season to end, or we're going to have to see some conclusion negotiations soon.
So what are some of the things that Cattlemen's Association is doing to help try to move this along?
Well, I think first and foremost, our message has been very clear to the United States and to the other countries, and that's leave the beef sector alone. We already have duty-free, unrestricted access to both Canada and Mexico. They've become two very good markets for us, not only for beef trade, but for a lot of variety meats as well. We send a lot of cuts to Mexico that consumers here in the United States simply don't want to purchase. And even though we export only about 10 to 15% of what we produce, those exports account for $300 per head. And that's very important, especially given all the volatility in cattle prices. So our message has been pretty clear on NAFTA, and that's don't mess with a good thing, do no harm, but also move quickly, because we need these negotiations to conclude soon so that our negotiators can get back to the table and focus on opening those important Asian markets where we see a lot of room for growth.
You mentioned Asia. TPP. 1 minute, we're out. The next minute, well, we might go back in. Then the next minute, the president says, nah, I don't like it. Does that make everybody's job a lot harder here every day at 3 in the morning? We're not really sure what's going to come across the old Twitter feed.
Well, it's certainly an interesting time, but the fact is that we're out. We're out of TPP. And in exchange for not being part of TPP, we were promised bilateral trade deals with these other countries. So the top priority has to be Japan. That is our biggest export market. It represents about $2 billion in U.S. beef sales. It's a lot of tongues. It's a lot of rounds and chuck shoulders that we're just getting a premium in those markets. We want to capitalize on that. The problem is we face a 38.5% tariff there. And when we sell too much, that tariff pumps up to 50% like it did last year. The only way to resolve that and prevent that from happening again is to have a trade agreement in place. So we've really been encouraging the administration. That's where our focus needs to be. We need to secure that market because our competitors who are part of TPP are going to get to enjoy the benefits that we negotiated, that the United States really pushed for. One of those was opening that Japanese market for beef imports. All of our competitors in TPP will see that tariff rate go from 38.5% to 9%. And where are we sitting? We're still 38.5%. So we're either going to be part of TPP or we're going to be a bilateral. Whatever the case, let's get to it and let's focus on Japan.
It's an interesting time to say the least. That is Kent Backus. He's with the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. We are at the National Association of Farm Broadcasting Washington Watch in Washington, D.C. I'm Brian Winnikins for WRDN.